Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is Ms. Dubois yet again, reaching out to my students who are in the hardest chapter of their respective courses, Algebra 1 Goal 5 and Algebra 2 Goal 2. So, there are a lot of word problems for this chapter, and as you can expect, about half the DSA for both courses is word problems, and that's what I wanted to focus on today. There are three specific topics that have overlap, meaning that they're in both Algebra 1 Goal 5, you can see them highlighted here, and they're in Algebra 2 Goal 2. So, what I want to work with specifically is these three topics. I'll show you how to go through them. One of them in particular, the distance, rate, and time, I know for a fact is a DSA on both courses. Both courses. Word problem and sum and other basic relationships, that is also in both courses. And I believe tax rate or interest, I think is on Algebra 2. I would have to go back and look. We'll check that out later. So first things first, we're going to start sum and other basic relationships. 9 times out of 10, this is the topic that unlocks all the other word problems. So they want you to get used to pulling an equation out of a word problem before they actually give you the real word problems. And it's actually kind of funny because sum and basic relationships is actually one of the harder topics, but then the other ones, so tax and interest rate or distance, rate, and time in particular, tend to be actually significantly easier because there's a little bit more of a method to the madness. So, to begin, solving a word problem involving sum and other basic relationships. Sum of two numbers is 44, difference is 14. So first thing you want to keep in mind are your keywords. So for example, sum, that means addition, adding, and then difference means subtracting. So that's going to give us a hint to what our equation is going to be. The thing is, it's the sum of two numbers. We have absolutely no idea what those two numbers are. So for now, I'm going to have x plus y. This is one of the few topics where I actually don't have an immediate answer for. Pick a variable name that makes sense. So the sum is what? 44. And then the difference, so x minus y is 14. And you can see just in lieu of setting up the equations, this is one of those that is tailor-built for elimination. So if I go through and I actually start adding this up vertically, then, let me get the brush, it's a different size, the y's completely cancel out, which is kind of low-key what we're looking for to begin with. Now, sum and basic relationships, this particular topic comes in both flavors. You kind of have to be aware of which is which. What are we left with? 2x plus 2x, or x plus x is 2x. I gave the game away. Equals, what is 44 plus 14? 58. Divide by 2, divide by 2. X equals 58 divided by 2 is 29. There's our x. How do we solve the rest of this? We plug it back in. So 29 plus y equals 44. I want to emphasize, and I've said this in other topics for other videos for these topics in systems, it does not matter which equation you plug it into. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, okay? Even for ones where I recommend one equation over the other, it honestly doesn't matter. That's the whole point. So, going back to this, minus 29 minus 29. 44 minus 29 is 15, I think. And let's double check our work. 29 minus 15, is that 14? Yes, it is. 29 plus 15, is that 44? 30, 44. Yep, it's 34. So since it has worked in both instances, both equations, we just double checked, and in fact, this is the correct solution. So what other kind of words can we keep an eye out for then? That's the question. So let's see here. We have two keywords that I kind of like for this one. Combined total, and then I did not give myself enough zoom. Give me a second here. There, now I can read it all. So the combined number of sodas was. Okay, so here's another keyword that I like. Sodas was, because that has a verb in there, a was. So we're going to zoom in a little bit, or we're going to write some equations. So if you have a combined total, that's addition. And what are we selling? Hot dogs and sodas. So sodas plus hot dogs equals 192. See, so here is one where you can, in fact, pick variable names that make sense. Next thing, the number of sodas was. And I cannot emphasize this enough. I'm going to, where can I write this? Anytime you see a verb, so like was, is, we also have cost, anything that you could think of, those are your equal sign. That's the thing that you want to keep an eye out for. So sodas was 3 times the hot dog. And now this one, as you can see, is set up perfectly for substitution. Let me zoom in a little bit so I can see the work a little bit better now that I have my key numbers. What this means then is that this topic, sum and other basic relationships, has both flavors of solving. So even though you may have a preference for one or the other, you do have to have some measure of comfort for both. So if S has the same value as 3H, S and 3H have the same value, that means that this S here, wherever I find it, can now be replaced with 3H plus H equals 192. And this we know how to simplify. 3H and H is just 4H equals 192. All right, divide by 4, H equals 48 hot dogs, okay? Then we take it and we plug back in. It does not matter between the two which one I choose. Let's see here. Let's try S equals 3 times. What number did we just come up with? 48. So 3 times 48, that's 120, 140, 144. And let's double check. Does 148 plus 144 get us 192? 180, 192. Yep, 192. So it checks out in both situations. All right. One more. Make sure we're comfortable with the sum and basic relationships. Let's see here. Highlighter. So the sum is 64. There's my verb. So there's my equal sign. The difference is 10. So, oh boy, I did not give myself a lot of space for this one. Let's see how well we can do. So sum, so x plus y equals 64, and then x minus y equals 10. Add them up. Let's see here. So y and y cancels. You're left with 2x equals what is 10 plus 64. That's going to be 74. Divide by 2. X equals 36. All right. And then plug it back in again. Which one do you want to feel like? Let's see here. Let's do the first one. So 36 plus y equals 64. So that means y equals what was 64 minus 36? 28. Am I right? So let's double check. 36 plus 28 is 50, 64. Yep. And then if we subtract them, if we subtract them, we get 10, so I made a mistake somewhere. All right, let's double check with our handy calculator that I totally had open from the start. Yes, I did. So let's see here. Is 72 divided by 2 36? Yes, it is. Okay. What is 64 minus 36? 28. So that is right. 64. Oh, you see the mistake? Do you see the mistake? What number is that supposed to be? A 4. Good job, Ms. Dubois. All right, so 74 divided by 2 is going to be 37. Yep. And then when you subtract 37 from both sides, you're going to get 27. Okay. And again, it's worth pointing out, I don't edit out my mistakes because, well, A, I'm human, but also finding the mistakes is half the challenge for some of these. And being able to recognize where the mistake is, going back into your work and double checking, that makes life and the challenge of it a little bit easier. So that is the first one. That is sum and basic relationships. Let's pick a different one. Let's do the tax rate one first. Tax rate, as you can imagine, much like the other topic and the next topic, comes in 2 distinct flavors. You're going to know which is which based on your keywords. So for example, if someone has X amount of money to invest, that's going to be elimination. Okay, I've done this in elimination. I've done this enough times to be able to recognize that. If you don't have that, then the other type is going to be obviously substitution. So if we're looking at this one at a glance, scroll, 30,000 to invest. That means this is the elimination type. Oops. Scroll back up so I have space. Okay. So 30,000 to invest. So the first account plus the second account equals the 30,000. 30,000. Please, universe, do not make me write commas. I suck at it. All right. Next, what other information do we have? Let's see here. Let's zoom out a little bit. We have, actually, let me highlight Ms. Dubois. Pay attention. There we go. Let's see here. So the to invest was the first thing we knew about. That's what gave us the elimination, so we knew what to keep up for there. Then one account is 6%. One account is 6% simple interest, and then the other account is 7% interest with a total is another hint, that means addition, 2060. So what does that mean? We have 0.06 for our first account, and then we have 0.07 for our second account, and then they add up to a total of 2060. There is our setup. The question now becomes, how do we actually solve this? So, since this is elimination, I get to go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. What am I going to get rid of? Do I want to get rid of the 6, or do I want to get rid of the 7? Let me take a drink of water. It doesn't actually matter what you choose. Let's see here. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I'll choose the 0.06 just because I don't like handling negatives. So I'm going to multiply everything by negative 0.06. Now, again, you know, not everyone's the human calculator like I am, so we can do, we can use calculators if needed to. So 0.06s equals. All right, so that's going to be 1,800 is my guess. Let's see if we're right. 30,000 times 0.06. 30,000 times 0.06. 1,800. Good. There's hope for me. Yeah. All right. Now we set this up vertically, which we already have. And now what do we have? Let's see here. From here, I know that the 6's cancel. That's kind of the whole point. So what is 0.07 minus 0.06? 0.01s equals, what is 2060 minus 1,800? Let's see here. 260, and then we're going to divide by 0.01, divide by 0.01, so s equals 26,000. All right. Then, based on that, again, we can pick one that makes sense. It doesn't matter which one, but I happen to like this one just because I know the math for it will be a lot easier. 26, 123, plus Ms. Dubois. Learn how to use the shift key. Equals 30, 123, and then from there, subtract 26, s equals $4,000. All right, next one. What do we have? Theater group made appearances in 2 cities. So already, do I see any amount of money to invest? Nope, absolutely not, which means this is going to be substitution. So I already come in mentally kind of knowing what my 2 equations are going to look like. So when I start pulling this out, let's see what we have. Let's see here. The total charge for tax in the second city was, see, that verb again, the was, that's your equal sign. 1,500 lower. 1,500 lower is a little bit trickier, but lower means less, right? That's subtraction, and it's less by 1,500 than in the first city. So F minus 1,500. Okay, next up, and you can see, again, let me get my highlighter back out. How you find your keywords is important. So the second city was, that's how I knew where my equal sign was. S equals. So S, nope, let's try that again. S equals the 1,500 lower than. That's the kind of stuff that you're trying to keep track of when you're finding this. Now, the first tax rate was 10%, all right? And then the second tax rate was 3.5%. And again, if you don't remember, that's where the decimal was, but I need to move it over 1, 2 places when I'm converting a percent to a decimal. And then what was the total taxes for the 2 cities? It was 588.75. Now, since this is not the elimination type, this is substitution, so I'm already told what variable is going to be going away, because S equals F minus 1,500. So that F minus 1,500 is going where? The S is. So 0.10F plus 0.035 parentheses f minus 1500 equals 588.75. So now we have to do distribution. So 0.10f plus 0.035f minus, I'm good but I'm not that good, so 0.035 times 1500. 0.035 times 1500. 52.5. Okay, that makes sense. 52.5 equals 588.75. So now we have some like terms because you can see we have the 0.10f and we have the 0.35f. Both of those are to your advantage since they both have the letter F, which means we can just combine them. So that becomes, computer, 0.135 F minus 52.5 equals 588.75. So far so good. Just doing a little bit of algebra manipulation and this is starting to look a little bit more comfortable. So what are we going to do? We are going to add 52.5 and then add 52.5, and what do we get? 0.135F equals, I'm good but I'm not that good, so 588.75 plus 52.5 is 641.15, 641.15, 641.15. Okay, and now we have to divide by the 0.135, so divided by 0.135. Oops. Okay, we found a mistake. Ms. Dubois is going to recheck her math and we'll cut back to you. It's always the small mistakes that get me. I wrote something down wrong. 25. That's what it's supposed to be. 25. Then when you divide it out, F equals, well, what is it? 4750. Okay, and if F equals 4750, that means we can plug it back in. So S equals 4750 minus 1500. All right, so what is that? Let's see here. So that's going to be 3250. And there are two numbers. Our first account is 4750. Our first account is 4750. Our second account is 3250. So far, so good. Now we get ready to talk. So I've gone through a couple of examples for two of the three topics that I want to cover. The next one I want to talk about is this one, distance, rate, and time. And before I do, I'll keep talking while I start cleaning some layers because there's some things I need to talk about. So distance, rate, and time is based on a formula that you guys actually had back in middle school, and every time I point that out to kids, they all tell me, Miss, nope, never learned it, never learned it. And specifically, this formula is used in two ways because, like we discussed prior, it is dependent on whether or not this is going to be substitution or elimination. So let me write some quick notes for you. We'll put these up here now that we have a little bit of space. From middle school, distance equals rate times time. That's from middle school. If you don't remember it, that's fine, but that's what we're looking at. Distance equals rate times time. Which kind you get depends on which keyword you have. So you have one kind of keyword and another kind of keyword. One kind you're either going to be going with and against, or maybe you will be going up and downstream. That is our, and I'm going to put this in capital locks, DSA flavor, because that's the type they're going to give you on the DSA. But they do want you to be comfortable with substitution as well, so they're going to give you another one. This is usually where you have like bikes or cars or trains, and they are either going toward each other or they are going in opposite directions. And that's going to be, you know, we need a name for this. We'll call it the knowledge check flavor. It doesn't actually always guarantee to show up on a knowledge check, but this one is absolutely guaranteed to show up on a DSI flavor. So what I've done in light of that, I want to give you guys some comfortability. Yeah, some comfortability with both of them. So I have both flavors set up and I have two examples of each. So knowledge check flavor first, because that's the one where the wording can sometimes be a little obnoxious to some kids. Let me zoom in for a second here. Is that enough? 18 slower. Yeah, that gives me just enough. All right, so When we're looking through these, it's less about well, you have the keywords, but there's also one sentence for this that is the most important one. So one train travels 18 clicks slower, there's my keyword, than the other. So slower is my most important word. So from there, I can actually create my first equation with that single solitary sentence. I haven't read anything else. I'm looking at that one because that's the one I know is going to be important. One train travels 18 clicks slower than the other. That's what it translates into. One train travels. One train travels is your x equals. 18 slower is your minus 18. The other is your y. Next, we're going to be finding our big things. So the question you're always asking, since it's distance equals rate times time, what's our distance? 708. Okay. What's our time? 3 hours. And the rate, we actually know. We have the x and we have the y. That's going to be your setup for this. From here, it's substitution. So since x has the same value as y minus 18, everywhere I see an x, I'm going to replace it with the y minus 18. So 3 times y minus 18 plus y. So in other words, this here was originally an x. And all I did was I pulled out the x and I plopped in what the x was equal to. All right, so now let's simplify this in algebra, the shiznits out of it. So 708 equals 3 times 2y minus 18. All right, so 708 equals, let's see here, that's going to be 6y because we're distributing now. 3 times 18 is 54. And hey, two-step equation, we know how to solve this. So we're going to add 54 and we're going to add 54. So that will be 764 equals 6y. So therefore y equals what? Divided by 6, that's going to be 124. Then from there, we can plug it into the any equation of our choice, either this one or this one. This one looks a little bit easier, so I'm going to choose that. X equals 124 minus 18. All right, so what's 124 minus 18? It is going to be 106. There's our setup. Now keep in mind for this particular topic, when you get the knowledge check flavor, keep in mind which one is faster and which one is slower. They will flip those around to try to trip you up. Let's go through one more example. So what do we have? Let's pull out our highlighter. We have, let's see here, we have 742 miles apart. There's my distance, and then there's 7 hours. So there's my time. Then the most important thing. One bus travels 20 clicks what? Slower. And that's the word I needed. 20 clicks slower than the other. So let's set ourselves up. Let's see here. So one bus travels 20 clicks slower than the other. Okay, that's all set. And then what's our distance? 742. What's our time? 7 hours. And then rate plus rate. So x plus y. And you can see, or maybe you can't see, this is where me doing these topics 406 billion times, I've done this so much that I don't even really think about it anymore. And I'm trying to make myself go slow so that you can follow the math as I'm going through it. So to back up again, one bus travels 20 clicks slower. Slower is subtraction. One bus travels 20 slower than the other. Distance equals rate times time. So 742 equals 7 times the 2 rates, because the thing with this specific topic is that they always give you 2 rates. So now we're going to plug in. So 742 equals 7 times y minus 20 plus y. Again, because the y minus 20 is what we're putting in for the x, we just yank out the x and plop in what the x is equal to. From there, we can algebra this out. So 742 equals 7 times y is 7y minus 140 plus 7y. What are we left with? 742 equals 14y minus 140. Add 140 to both sides, so that's going to be 882 equals 14y equals, Ms. Dubois, pay attention to your signs. All right, so what does y equal? This is a little outside my ability to do the head. I'm going to assume 7. Let's find out if we're right. 882 divided by 14. 63. I was so off. That's hilarious. Ah, well. 63. Oh, of course that makes sense because it's 20 less than. Okay, so then the other x is 20 less than the 63. So what's 63 minus 20? 43. Boom. So that's the knowledge check flavor, the one where they're expecting you to do substitution. Some kids like this, but when I go through my mini lessons, the kids actually like the DSA flavor better, and I can see that I don't have enough space. Oops. Zoom out. Okay, so for this one, there's a hack for this. Let me get there first. First, we got to set up our equations. So what's our distance? 3798 equals, what's our time? 6 hours, and then we have something and something. I want to fill that in a second. Hold that thought. Then what is our new distance? 4518 equals, what's our time? It says the same amount of time. So what was our original time? 6. Parentheses, yada, 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 yada. All right, I wanted to keep a note of this one, the 3798, that was against the wind, and this one is with the wind. So vocab, keywords, actually important. This is the one where you actually have to read for half a second, okay? So what we have here, the plane is going against the wind. I wish you could see my hands because I have a little demonstration for this. The plane is going as fast as it thinks it's going. But if it's going against the wind, is it really going that fast? And the answer is no. Is it faster or slower? Slower. So is that addition or subtraction? Subtraction. So since this is plane and wind, this is going to be plane, slower, wind. So then this one, now we're traveling with the wind, right? So is the plane traveling faster or slower? Faster. So is that addition or subtraction? Addition. So now we're set up. Now, the long way to do this, if this was one of the other type of problems, multiply by 6, distribute, find the things, do the elimination, but there's actually a hack for this. So what's going to happen is I'm going to divide by, what number am I getting rid of? 6 over here, and then I'm going to divide by, what am I getting rid of? 6 over here. When I divide both sides by that 6, watch what happens. It's actually kind of cool. So 3798 divided by 6, that's going to be 633, P minus W, and then 45, that's going to be 753 equals P plus W. And this is cool enough that I want to zoom in and sort of like see the beauty of this for a second, because what happened was the parentheses completely disappeared, that 6 completely disappeared, these giant FizzWidget numbers became a lot smaller and easier to manage, and then joy of all joys, would you look at those W's? They can eliminate. Ah, that's a neat little trick. All right, so we're actually going to do the thing. We're going to go this out. What is 633 plus 753? That is 1386 equals 2P. So divide by 2, P, your plane in still air, equals 693. There you go. And again, you have the choice of what equations you want to plug it back into. I tend to choose this one because, again, the numbers are smaller and easier to wrap your head around, and also I'm not going to be dealing with any pesky elimination or negative numbers. So 753 equals our 693 plus the wind. So we're going to subtract our 693 and our 693 in order to get, you can tell I'm getting lost in the math here for a second, in order to get W equals what? 60 miles per hour. And for wind, that makes sense, right? Your plane is going to be going pretty fast, and then your wind is going to be going significantly slower. So far, so good. We'll go through one more example, and then we'll call it quits for the video because you can hear my poor fan starting to overclock. So the motorboat takes what? Distance equals rate times time. So 200 is our distance, time is our rate, and we have the boat and the current. Something current, and this is upstream. Then the return trip, keyword, return trip means it's the same distance, and this time it's in 4 hours, and we have the boat and the current, and this is going downstream. So now we just have to take that moment and think. The boat is going upstream, so it goes as fast as it thinks it's going, but if it's fighting the current, is it really going that fast? No. Faster or slower? Slower. Addition or subtraction? Subtraction. So then this one, your boat, is being helped by the current. So faster or slower? Well, it's being helped, so therefore it's faster. And therefore it's going to be addition. And now we have our handy little hack. We're going to divide by 5. Be very careful. So I'm going to backtrack for a second. Up here the numbers were the same, so we divided by 6 and divided by 6. Here the numbers are not the same. So what's the number I'm getting rid of? 5. So I'm going to divide by 5. Over here, what's the number I'm getting rid of? 4. So I'm going to divide by 4. That does affect the math. So 200 divided by 4 is 40 equals B minus C. And then 200 divided by 4 is 50 equals B plus C. So add them up, you're going to be left with 90 equals 2B. To be or not to be, that is the question, whether to remain this mortal coil and suffer its slings and arrows and oh. Anyway, so therefore, as a result, B equals 90 divided by 2, which is 45. Now we plug it back in, and again, I'm going to choose this one just because I'm lazy and I want things to go evenly for me. So 50 equals 45 plus the current. So do some really quick subtraction in your head. The current is 5 miles an hour. Phew! So at half an hour, that is 4 topics that I have covered for you guys. Let me scroll back up so you can actually see it. Look at that. We have 3 topics now. That's roughly 15% of both of your respective goals taken care of. My next video will be specifically for Algebra 1 Goal 5 because I'll be talking about these 2 problems, and I think that's the vast majority of what we need for this particular goal. Anything after Monday's upload will be specific topic tutorials if you guys shoot me an email. In the meantime, stay happy, stay healthy. Rumor has it it's supposed to be 70 degrees outside, so enjoy the weather, well, I guess in your backyard. Have a good one.